Our learning objectives here is to explain the culture influences or the influence, to explain the family relationship, and also to identify the influence of the cultural differences. So cultural differences, it's about the point of view, the beliefs, of course, the customs and traditions of an individual. Every people, based on their institution which they belong, has the following culture that they adapted. That's why in this world, or the universe rather, that all of us have different beliefs, customs and traditions that might be the reason why this will be a barrier for a communication, a barrier for the understanding, a barrier for the exceeding beyond the limits towards the organization to work on achieving the success. Because, of course, uh, we as the people, we are born different, we grow different, and we do a lot of things different because which we inherit to the people or to the institution which we belong. That's why please take note that according to the according to Smith and Delabay, that culture defines that culture is a system which people can learn from the institution which they belong, and also this culture can be shared, okay, and influence to other people in order to unify or to accept other cultures in order to reach and understand our differences. And also it talks about a study on how our culture must be interrelated, how our also values must be also related, and even our assumptions. So regardless of the cultural differences, our for as long as we influence for good, for as long as we already shared and we can learn and share to others in order to inspire, and also it will help you to reach people, especially regardless of your differences, it will be help to understand each other and also to respect one another in order to for the organizations that we can work as one, because it is very important that human relations and human interactions is very important regardless of the culture that we adapt. But please take note, we have also as people, as an individual, patience, understanding is also a factor in order to reach and respect others, especially the culture which we adapt. As I've said, it is according to the Labay and Smith, it is already learned, but we cannot enforce our beliefs or culture to others, which they have their own perceptions or point of view. But what the important is, if you really understand others, you must know how to respect their opinions, their culture also, in order to reach them. Okay? Because this is the reason why some barriers are incurred or occur, because there are some people that the belief, they want to enforce their beliefs, and they tell that the other culture is a mistake. We cannot say that the culture is a mistake. What I mean is the other people's culture is a mistake. No, regardless of their beliefs, which institution which they belong, because the institution influences the culture that we have. But what we're going to do is we know how, in order to reach people, we must accept and respect our own cultures and even the culture of others. Okay? Beliefs or ideas is about the nature of person. Every individual, as I've said, for whichever institution you belong, our ideas and beliefs is about our nature. It's based on how we adapt the environment, aside from the institution, based also on the way we live, the things that we see in our environment or surroundings. Take note that values are a positive and negative ideals. Negative ideals, because we talk about values, those are the things that we have to adapt. Okay, we say positive, the things that for good, but negative ideas or customs, it might be also a negative. It will be depending on how to deal with it, and also based on the standards that we might believe, if those values can be a negative idea. Okay? And also, institutions of a group, as I've said, institutions influence individuals for whatever institution which we belong, and what the institution share the culture with us that we learn to adapt. Okay? It's only a two-way. It's all a positive or a negative way. But as an individual, it's up to us on how we're going to adapt, learn, and share to influence others so we can reach other people. Because in the organization, it is very important that, as I've said earlier, that regardless of the cultural differences personally, but in the organization, we need to set aside some of our cultures to work as one, or the organization will build a culture only for the organization that we use to adapt, or for the organization that we can reach and understand each other, and to follow a one direction to perform a task that the organization can help in achieving their objectives. That's why the organizations, they have also in the orientation about the company profile and even the values of the organization, which the employees or the manpower must adapt inside the organization, regardless of the culture institution which belong outside the organization. Okay? And take note that assumptions are also the ideas. There are some assumptions that those things are taken for granted as facts, because there are some things, the reality, there are some people, they don't want to know the truth or the facts, and sometimes they are drawn by their own beliefs that will tell a lies. But take note, some assumptions are not based on the facts. Sometimes assumptions can be a policy that might lead into trouble, that will lose a trust. Okay? So take note that there are also subcultures within the society. A subculture is the subset of a larger culture, because in a community, there are also cultures, because for every nation, they have also values, beliefs, and assumption that might be different than the larger culture. Example, in the Philippines. In the Philippines, we have our own, what we call this, ethnic. That's why, because of the ethnic, we have different dialects. And from different ethnics, we have different religions, beliefs, and values and customs. But regardless of those beliefs, customs, traditions, but we consider as one and we unite as one. But regardless of differences, okay, we as Filipino, we can still accept for who we are. Okay? Take note that we are also, as an individual, we are also the member of the subculture. Philippines is a larger culture with different regions, with different cultures and ethnics, the dialects, and their own different beliefs and customs. What that in spite of it, in the society, we can still unite as one. But even though right now, if we talk about politics, Filipinos are might be different with their beliefs, but it should not be hinder for us to unite or to work for a better living and for a better place. Okay? So what are those influences of cultures and subcultures? Take note, these are very important because it influences the members of the society. And as I've said earlier, according to Smith and Delabas, that culture is learned and shared. So it's up to us for whoever influence us, for as long as for good, then we can adapt that. Cultural baggage is the ideas that carry a lot of beliefs, values, and assumptions at all times. So cultural baggage is just like a thing that you have in your bag. That yet if you brought in wherever you go, you can still use it. And take note, our cultural baggage, it can influence also how you respond to others. Okay, how do you respond to others? Let's say example, the cultural baggage. Let's say you are a Muslim. Oh, and then you also meet with the Christian people. Example of that. So the cultural baggage is maybe the Muslim might be different from your other people because the people surrounded are Christians. So the cultural baggage is the way how you respond to those people who are Christians, not just only sharing your beliefs or culture, but in order to reach them is you must also respect their cultures. Okay? Aside, if you want to respect your culture, you must also respect the culture or the belief of the Christians. Okay, that's a good example of cultural baggage. Ako or me, I used to apply that, no? Because I'm also a friend who is a Muslim. And regardless of our religious differences, but we as one, we're still friends. Even though there are times that the food that we eat, there are some foods that he doesn't eat because of his religion, and I do respect that in order to reach them. And same with my friends. So the cultural baggage is the influence. Well, I'm not influenced to be a Muslim like him, but what I influence from him is the value of the things that you believe. We don't make any arguments with our beliefs, but instead we respect each other, respect our own opinions, and at the end of the day, we can still be friends and sharing some things that we are in common. And that's a good influence on how to respond with my friend. Okay, that the influences because cultures and subcultures must also influence others. And how do you respond with that? In the organization, in the human resource, cultural baggage influences is what you say and do as you conduct your work. Yes, exactly. Because in the HR setting, for whoever the cultural baggage that you have in your institution, from your church, from your home, in work, you might be different, but sometimes you adapt those things on how you're going to perform a work and how you socialize or working or dealing with your co-workmates. Okay? But if you influence some things might good for the company, then why not? Another example of that, I remember when I worked in the financial institutions, in our banking institutions, when I was new there, well, that was my last job in corporate before I came in academics. When I in our department, it seems that some of my workmates are boys and girls. I've noticed that during the lunch, they eat, of course, they're more on the meat products. Well, there's nothing of eating the meat products. If we talk about the viands and the rice. Well, when I was new in the bank, in the department, so when they saw what's my lunch, my food in lunch, because I used to make a packed lunch of a rice and a vegetable. And they saw me, but at first they laughed at me. They told me, "Are you a vegetarian or something?" When I said no, because why is I eat vegetable? Because at home, my cultural baggage, the way I respond to people, because at home, my mother used to cook vegetables as part of our meal, because vegetable is also good for the health. That also give you good digestions, and it can be more strengthful and healthy than the meat. But we used to eat the meat, of course, but we used to eat vegetables more than the meat. And then when you saw my meal, vegetables, they tried to ask for it, to have them. Then I give them. And they noticed that the vegetable which I cook, they love it. And they influence it. And then they ask me how to cook on that vegetable, and I teach them. And the following day or the following period of working days, when during the lunch, I influence them to eat vegetables. You see, it's the culture influence what you say and what you do to conduct your work. So my influence them is to eat a healthy living. Because our work in the bank is it's even more stressful, and most of the people there are stress eating and eating unhealthy. While me, I teach them at lunch and in the afternoon. Well, I used to eat a snack of sandwich, which I also have my pack lunch, because I always do that. Instead of buying in the stores or convenience store, I used to secure my food pack are healthy living. And that's what might influence the other department. And then also my boss noticed it. And through that, my boss is very happy with me, because he told me that at first, "What are you?" And I said, "Why, sir? Is there anything wrong? Is something wrong about my job?" "No. I've seen that you influence the boys to eat healthy living, because that's my influence." Okay, but anyway, because I told to my boss that sometimes we need food for the brain, and vegetables are more healthier. It can also boost your mind and in your body to perform the work. And please take note that cultures and subcultures are also a set of standards against which people judge behaviors. Yes, it's true that cultures and subcultures, of course, it can also set as our standards, but people will judge our behaviors against it. Okay, because some people may not understand the things that you go through, and also the culture that you go through. And it's easy for the people to stereotype and to discriminate as part of the judgment. Okay? And consequently, people behave in ways that are acceptable to other members. Yes, it's true. Because I also do that. Uh, in order to be accepted by my co-employees, aside from influencing in food, I used to be more formal to them in order to be acceptable to them, or sometimes, uh, example of that, in my work, I used not to drink. But because my co-workmates are used to drink every Friday, in order to get in with them in our department, even though I don't drink and I don't want to go late night on Friday night, because weekend, of course, Saturday, Sunday, they don't have a job. It's a rest day. Every Friday we have our Friday group, but I not always attend the Friday group because, of course, excuse me, I have a family to. My parents are waiting to me to go home. Okay, that's why I only use every other Friday, because I told them I cannot be always to attend the Friday group because of my family, of course, my parents, and I have other things to do other than that. Okay, in order to be accepted. Okay, but there are times that, of course, they might be not a little bit, what do you call this, a little bit, uh mad, okay, for not joining them on a regular basis. But well, at the end of the day, they understand me for that. Okay, but for me on this part, we don't need to change ourselves in order to be accepted, no. But why some people do this? Of course, in order to be get in sometimes, but that's I realize that being different is nothing wrong. Sometimes being different makes you a better person, that you can influence them in a way that the people will realize it soon. Okay? So what are those variations in the human resource subcultures worldwide? So if we talk about international cultures, please take note that people cannot escape the influence of the business subcultures. Yes, take note, the business subcultures are more powerful than any other cultures. Why? Subcultures. Because in in the environment, in the organization, excuse me, in the organization, we have a culture to build during the orientation, especially the core values and the policies that we have to comply or follow. Of course, if your people who around you work, the people you work with have different also culture, but sometimes if the environment of the work is very happy and motivated, then you can perform well. But if your environment is a very toxic, or let's say the business culture is more powerful and the organization is very toxic, then you will live in stress. At the same time, that was the time that you gave in or you gave up. Please take note that subcultures uh, can also shape a personal and professional behaviors. Please take note that our culture at home, that will be a cultural baggage to our organization, because our organization have also different cultures that adapt inside for the sake of the working with the organization to adapt their cultures in order to create an image of the company to the customers, and that's a good way. Of course, that's why our organizational culture also shape us to be more professional in what we do in working. Okay, regardless of the culture of the organization, locally and globally. Take note that our behavior in work will be guided by the standards. Yes, the business subcultures, our behavior will be guided. Our behavior in our work will be guided by the standards that should be permissible to them. Example, if you are very grumpy person, grumpy at home, but your behavior of being a grumpy in the organization, you might control it because it will show your grumpiness to your workmates and to the organization as well. And it's not acceptable to the business subculture. It might lead you into a replacement. It might lead you for not working with them anymore. Okay, that's why there are company policies and standards. We have also our core values to follow in order to align our behaviors towards the work when we are inside the organization. Okay. Next is the family relationship. Please take note that the cultures and subcultures are also influence the ways in which societies organize themselves. Take note that social organization includes the relationship between our family and even the international culture society. These components also affects not only the entire culture, but also many other institutions, including the business community. And of course, what are those family units? The family units are also, take note that a group of family, it builds a community, and a group of community builds a society. So what are those family units? We have the nuclear family. The nuclear family is composed of a mother, a father, a kids, an aunt, an auntie, and grandmother, grandfather. Okay? So those things are lived in one home. Particular, you know what, in the Eastern countries like us, nuclear family is very valuable or very valuable to us because in the Eastern countries like the Philippines, because we're in the Asian countries and Eastern countries or Eastern continents, we used to value our family to live at one house. Okay? Because family ties is very important to us. Unlike in the Western countries or Western continents, of course, there's a nuclear family, but we cannot consider in the Western, they used to adopt the extended family, which a mother and a father and the kids. But when your kids reaches 15, the kids have their a right decision to separate or to set apart from their parents and living their own. Okay, but that once the kids are become independent, they used to leave their parents and to work for themselves, and then they establish their own family. So it composed only of a mother, a father, and the children. Okay, that is that called as extended families. Okay, while here in our what they call this in our Eastern continent, we are very those relatives are also part of the family that we use to live in one house. Okay, and then social institutions. Okay, so social institutions, those are the group of society which we belong, that also our culture are learned and shared by them and even influenced. So what are those social institutions? Of course, education, the school. The school is an institution for us to educate, to earn it, not only to earn a degree, but to learn about the values of life and preparation of us for a profession or career that we want to go. Okay, gender roles is all. What social institutions about gender roles? It's about the church. It's about the family house, of course. When say gender, also those gender roles are created by it. Gender roles is how we used to portray. Okay, to portray in the society. So if you talk about gender roles, it's about our femininity and masculinity. So maybe the LGBT is also part of the role as a society, but take note, even there's people might not understand this kind, and they used to stereotype those people. Diversity also comes in that we have to accept that this kind of role is now part of the society, that they should be respected, okay, for whoever there is, for as long as they are not uh make any bad influences to the society, but we are also the advocate for goodness and advocate on how they used to influence others for good. Mobility is also what they call this, the mobility is how the people or institutions used to increase in numbers based on the society which we belong. Of course, our social influence on the institution, the church, the school, the family, your company, if you're working, and also the friends. Okay, and even the class system, or what say class system talks about the social class. Of course, this is the saddest thing for me, because from the class system, if you are not on the social class which you belong, and you are in the post people with the, you know, rich people or uh, average family, and you are not in the average family, you might not fit in or come in. And there's another stereotype with it, no? Ako, for me, it's this kind. Yes, it influence, but for me, regardless of your social class, for as long as we are both humans, we are both eating a Filipino meal, there will be no stereotyping or discrimination in it. Regardless of our status of living, we must help each other and reach others. Okay? And also, this is also good for the organization. Okay? And the last one is, what are the influences of cultural differences? So what are those things? Of course, our cultural differences participates in making decisions. Yes, that's a great influence, because in making decisions, it might vary from our beliefs and perception. It can also influence. We can hire a lot of preferences. Yes, when it comes to selecting a people, although we have our job analysis, but we also other preferences that we look for the people, because aside from it, we are not only looking for the people who are qualified on the job analysis, but the ability of the person who can work with the organization and with the employees or the people also. Permanence of employment also influence of cultural differences, because people have many beliefs. People stayed for the company for good for the rest of her retirement, because it's about contentment, and you enjoy the work, because you know what, this is the most important thing, enjoying your work. Because there are some questions that why is it that people that they stay for the company until their retirement, but they live only in one company. You know what, we cannot judge them, or we cannot stereotype them, because it's their decision. The reason of staying the company for too long, and most of their co-employees are in the other companies, or they left behind, it's just because they are live in the company at peace. They live in the company. They enjoy working with the company regardless of the salary they get. And that's what's the most important. Because if you have your high salary and the environment of your work is very toxic, it's up to you if you're going to adapt the toxic things, or you need to give up. And there's nothing wrong also for the people who are staying for the company for more than 5 years, 10 years, and looking for a better opportunity, there's nothing wrong with it. It's about us that we are looking for our improvements or development. But I'm not saying that the people who stay in the company for too long, they don't want to get out from their comfort zone. No, it's not. No? Why? The reason why he stayed for too long in the company because they get out from the comfort zone because they perform a lot of jobs. But the people who are looking for a better career with other companies, it's not also wrong because it's a matter of looking yourself or finding yourself which you really belong. Yeah, for me, there's no permanence in this world. Even you work in the company for more than a years or a decade, but take note that there's no permanency here. All of those things has its ended. What I'm trying to say in the HR issues in the organization, the permanence is only for me, permanence is only a continuous job and you have a stable job with the company. But when it comes to the permanency or for life, everything has its ended. And also the cultural differences also influence the labor and management relationship, especially the labor and the management. They have different beliefs and perception that on the part of the employee and on the part of the management. Okay, so it means that what we call this labor and management relationship also influences that even there are also a different perspective between the labor and the management, but we must have their proper dialogue in order to understand both of them their sides in order to reach and to resolve for whatever disputes which they encounter. Okay, so that is our topic for today when it comes to internal or international culture.